Ladies and gentlemen, we here at Whale Certified always likes to grin and laugh and everything, but today's episode is a public service announcement for heartfelt intentions, and that's not to say that we do not enjoy life and we do not take what we have and make the best of it. But I have two union brothers from the laborers, Local 110. They'll introduce themselves a little later. But these cats, they started a a group to be able to identify and help the people who have drug and alcohol abuse that leads to suicide. And I have been affected by it personally, and in my union, many went unnoticed. That the one thing to recovery, the one thing to make things right is to expose it, to bring it to light, to be able to say, hey man, you don't have to dart light in the shadows anymore, man. You know, you're one of us. And I'm so proud of you guys in your local that you're taking upon yourselves, and other locals also, taking upon yourselves to really take it to the nth degree of truly being a brother and sister of your fellow member. And so without further ado, I would like you guys to do your shtick, to do your deal, that maybe somebody listening to this will really man, you know what I mean? Really, really get it off. Start the journey to extraordinary, man. Uh, it will be about the why and how you guys do what you do. So, fellas, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for definitely giving us the exposure and putting the spotlight on what's going on in the construction industry. Uh, so my name is Aaron Walsh. I'm out of local 42. I got to give a shout out
Yes,
to my local 42 guys
I
because
apologize.
I don't want my head on the chopping block
No,
now. We got
baby. Yeah, I apologize profusely.
Yeah, so I'm a guy in recovery, man. I've been in recovery since 2015. Just celebrated 10 years in May, and so I've been a part of this organization since 1998. So they have seen me uh, come through a lot of shit and come out on the other side of that, and yeah, so. With that being said, I found recovery through a guy on a job site, right? And through that, my recovery's always been worn on my sleeve. Always, we're always willing to help each other out, man. And, in the brotherhood, and so uh, yeah. And I guess I'll let James introduce himself before I go into how and why we got here.
All right. Morning, Kevin. Thank you very much. Local 110, as you said, James Purcell. Aaron and I, it's funny, we're partners in this lean program for the laborers, and we are like two sides of the same coin. We are brothers, and been union concrete laborers since 1999. Also somebody in sustained recovery. I started my recovery in 2017, my recovery journey. I like to talk about, and I know Aaron does too, not only substance use recovery, but also mental health recovery. That process of change that really changes who we are and how we do things. Because it's one thing to say I know I'm done, you know kicking my own ass, but how do I go about that, and how do I address some of these inner problems and inner challenges, that I have going on. So I like to talk about mental health also, because and I apologize for going straight into it, but when I talk about suicide, it's like a triangle, right? So if you're talking about suicide, you're talking about mental health, and typically you're also talking about some substance use or misuse or abuse also. So yeah, I also was supported actually by my contractor, who's also a union laborer. He's a local 110 guy, Mark Sticka. It's helped me in my darkest hours, and also my family and my brothers on the job site. Like Aaron said, and you alluded to, Kat, we are a brotherhood, and we are our brother and sister's keeper, and we are built for this. Even though we kick our own asses and take the piss out of each other, we're also built to care for each other. And so Aaron and I are here to model that, if you will, to show people how to live a different way, or how to, and we still have to get the job done. We still can give each other shit and have a good time, but to what real strength looks like, how to be healthy and happy, right?
Yeah.
We don't even know where you mentioned that at the beginning of the talk, for us to be happy, to enjoy the fruits of our labor. So James Purcell, Local 110, glad to be here.
Right on, brother.
Yeah, so it's been about two years and 7 months now, since James and I started working with the Lean program, and there was some people in our in our leadership, that one had a son die of an overdose. Another one in that circle, his son died by suicide, and so these guys were kind of really looking at, like, what could they do, and so they went to our board. They went to the director of our health and welfare fund, and they were like, they had seen that a program like this existed, and so they were like, we want to do this in St. Louis. And right away there was pushback, and on and on, and that process actually started, I believe, in around 2020, and so it took another it took another 2 years, and finally they interviewed James and I, and right away we started training for credentials, CHW, CPS, some other things. Both of us are still in school, and got trained up to get the language. But the real nuts and bolts of this thing is that our people are dying by suicide at an alarming rate, and also dying from substance use disorder. And we think about that, and a lot of times it's not the guy with a needle in the alley, right? It's a guy that pulls the pill out of somebody's lunchbox, right?
Yeah.
That he had gotten off the street, right?
Yeah.
And guys overdose that way, right? And
Yeah.
so James and I, we get to share lived experience, right? Of being laborers, of being in recovery, and that's how we get to touch lives, man. Is to get people connected to the resources, the proper resources through the shared experience, and I'll let James add a little bit to that.
Yeah, I love talking about the peer mechanism, right? I have this silly little saying that, a peer can do in 5 minutes what a clinician might not be able to do in 5 weeks, right? We have that instant rapport and safe space that it's like, I'm also a Marine Corps veteran, and it's like vets. A vet will talk to anybody a certain way, but if you get a vet in a room with another veteran, they're just going to open up right away.
Right.
And that's part of what this mechanism, this peer mechanism does, we've had plenty of resources out there for years, right? We got good health insurance, good benefits and stuff. But guess what? Nobody used it. Nobody was in the field modeling how to take care of yourself, right?
Right.
You just fucking rub some dirt on it. Pardon my language, but you rub some dirt on it and you get back in there, leave your shit at the gate and come to work. Well, come to find out that doesn't work really well, and that's actually killing our members. And so Aaron and I, we get to be out there in front of our men and women, in front of our leadership, in front of you, and talk about it, be honest and open about it. And we find that the minute we do that, that allows other people to be vulnerable and talk about what they got going on too. And turns out we're human beings. We all got something going on.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you are. And the most angry guy on the job site who doesn't think he wants to talk about anything or doesn't need help, he's probably the guy who needs the most help, or maybe not.
Yeah.
And Aaron mentioned something about the guy taking the pill. Not only that, I mean, and listen, Aaron and I aren't the party police, but we've seen guys drink themselves to death. I was drinking myself to death. That's acceptable. Nobody can believe there's, needles in our Johnnies, but there's airplane bottles everywhere. Somebody's tossing you a beer at lunch, or the minute the whistle blows, you're grabbing a beer. So it's a slow, hard death. You're taking yourself away from your family and everything else. So yeah, listen, I'm not here to tell someone how to live their life, but I'm certainly going to tell you about some of the pitfalls, and also share about taking care of yourself, about my own experience, about how, hey, if you got some challenges, that doesn't mean there are plenty of variations on this theme. This doesn't have to be abstinence based. If you're struggling with something, a lot of times if we can work on some of the inner turmoil, and whether that looks like therapy or some group support, there's amazing groups out there. Aaron and I are working on one ourselves. That group support, some guys, you still can drink a beer, or, there's also, I'm going to break it open. We're going to talk about marijuana. It's legal in Missouri, but, for many of our contractors, it's not. A lot of our young people are using. So it's not that Aaron and I have all the answers, but we're willing to have some of these heavy conversations and talk about it and work on it,
Right
yeah.
on.
Yeah. And that's, when they see a guy like us come out to the apprenticeship talk or out on a job site talk, right? Or we're talking, we're trying to inform people, man, that things like asking somebody, are you going to kill yourself? Right. It's a hard question to ask somebody. Right. But and we think that's, the word on the street is that's going to make somebody want to do it even more, and that's not the case, right? Like that will actually open up the door for them to feel comfortable to possibly say something.
And by the way, Aaron and I, you're talking to two guys who have made plans to kill themselves,
right?
And got pretty close to that minute. And we know that just by talking to somebody, we wanted to reach out to somebody. We did reach out to somebody. And so, having people better understand this, imagine, Kevin, we wouldn't have been having this conversation 25 years ago. And here we are. And I think for people just to hear these conversations, to open it up, to talk about, some signs and symptoms, because I talk about this a lot. I love a good unit, a team unit, and I'm a concrete guy. I always worked with a good 5-man crew. You know more about that crew than anybody else in their life. When their ass is hanging in the wind, when they're having something great happening, they're having a child or getting married. And so, you might be the last person to see them alive. And so, just asking people to give a shit if they can, right? If you got your own shit going on, that's okay. But if you got that brother or sister on a job site who, it's Friday, their head's been hanging low all week or all month, they're, you can tell, they're disheveled or whatever. There's plenty of signs and symptoms, but sometimes there's not. But you generally, as a human being working side by side, you have a feel for what's going on with that human. And if there's a saying in the field, suicide prevention or whatever you will, silence kills. You know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that, and also part of the deal too is, right, like, we're constantly handing out Narcan, right? And we get a lot of people that, kind of shrug it off, or like, oh, I don't do that, or, I'm not around that. And that's when we get to have conversations with people about what it is and say, hey, you just carrying this says you give a shit. It doesn't mean you have to use it, right? And it may open up a conversation with somebody else, right? And what that does is that starts to break down stigma, right? Because that's what we're up against. Like, not, as you know, Kevin, there's a ton of personal stigma, right?
Yeah.
There's societal stigma,
Yeah.
right? Especially in our culture, well, in a lot of cultures. And then there's the occupational stigma.
Absolutely.
And so our job is to get out and at least say, hey guys, you have options here, right? You can go on temporary disability. You can go get help. You can go search out for answers to some of these questions, and we'll be there to support you the whole way, right? And yeah, so that's a big part of our job, is breaking through the fucking stigma, the idea that we have to carry the world on our shoulders, that everything's up to us, and just all the lies.
We can't break down. We have to grind it out until, like I said, some people are dying because of it.
Yeah.
Aaron was on to something. I want to say normalizing treatment. It comes, part of the stigma is this moralistic view that if somebody can't stop drinking, oh, that's on them, and they're just they're a bum, or they're incapable. Or same with Aaron brought up with Narcan, opioid users, somebody who got down that track. Some of it's been handed to us, right? We are one of the most as far as pain medication, we are high on the list. We have, repetitive injuries, long-term injuries. We work into our older years, so we're working through pain. So we've been given these opioids. So to look down on somebody who that's how they found a way to, deal with their pain. And look, that's what we're looking at. A lot of these issues, people are in pain. They're struggling with something, whether it's physical or mental. And Aaron and I aren't afraid to talk about this. Normalizing treatment. A lot of people would rather, I don't know, go to the end, die, than say, hey, I have to go to treatment. Aaron brought up another thing, and I'll kind of talk about our program. We run a 24-hour hotline for our members. They can call us anytime. It is 100% confidential. So yeah, we know that somebody's not going to want to walk into the to the job trailer or go into their boss's office and say, hey, I'm drinking a case of beer a day, I need to go. Nobody wants to go in and do that. Or, hey, I'm getting divorced and I'm getting kicked out. Nobody wants to self-disclose like that. So we're providing a safe space for that. And hopefully that can spread. We can turn this thing around where we can start taking care of each other. And somebody might, there might be a peer on a job site who somebody knows they can go up and talk to. Maybe they got a hard hat designator, but they can have that conversation. And then Kevin, maybe we can start having those conversations earlier,
Yes.
upstream, and maybe fend off some of these, this destruction, this generational trauma that I know I've got it, Aaron's got it in his family. Yeah. And so we know that what happens to our member, by our member, I mean one of the tradesperson we're talking about, it affects their family too, right?
Yeah, man.
If they're struggling with alcohol use, and a lot of times that that's coming out of their problems at home are affecting it, right? It's all reciprocal. And Aaron and I talk about presenteeism. If you got a guy who's got a teenage kid who's, struggling with drugs or alcohol, or struggling with their mental health, his head ain't on the job site, right? He's worried about his kid, or if somebody is going through some relationship issues. So not only, like I said, there's that kind of trifecta of substance use, mental health, and suicide. Aaron and I are talking about mental health.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, we're talking about guys getting better through the mental health space. Substance use treatment is kind of what it is. It's kind of been the same for a long time. And if your ass ain't falling off, and you're kind of not ready for abstinence, right? Or you're kind of not ready to buy into a 28 day treatment. And so really looking more at the mental health aspect of things is where we found the most fruit. Guys are getting better. I've seen some of the wildest cases, Kevin, come out of and their SUD, right? Their or alcohol use, right? And going to mental health treatment, and they come out, man. These guys are living amazing lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're really kind of focused on that mental health aspect and digging in deeper on the underlying issues, because as you know, Kevin, these are just symptoms of a bigger problem,
Yes.
and they always are, right?
Right.
And not everybody's ready to walk into a 12-step meeting and sit down and work it, like it needs to be worked. So, out of 10 guys, 3 guys are willing to do that, right? What am I doing for the other 7? And that's what we're doing.
Right on.
And so, you know, yeah, it's been really.
yeah, we love what we do, Kevin. We've seen this thing turn into a couple cautious calls at first, and now people are openly calling us. We had guys who weren't ready for it yet, but they would just call us just to see if we were there because they burned a lot of bridges in their life, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll do monthly check-ins. We kind of talk about ourselves as like this thread of continuity, and we're going to be there for them regardless. That unconditional positive regard. They look at themselves like pieces of shit. As we know, people who struggled, we kick our own ass more than anybody else could.
Right
And
on.
so Aaron and I show up for these men and women and their families day in and day out. And when they're ready to get help, they know they've got somebody there to walk them through it. We help people find therapists. We help them navigate their benefits, programs.
Yeah.
And then long after those clinical touches, Aaron and I are still checking in, still making those phone calls. If they maybe have a return to use, which we know is part of this deal. It's a chronic issue. It's a chronic disease. And so when somebody has a return to use, we know that they're typically still ready to be making changes. So they're calling us right away. Or Aaron's talked about this before. If we got somebody who's still using, hey, call us. Let us know where you're at, what you're doing, if you're okay. I love this too. I had guys who are newly sober, and they'll call on their way home. Hey, I'm about to pass the gas station where I usually buy my liquor.
Yeah.
I just need somebody to talk to.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, all the little amazing things that we get to do every day. We've had our members, we've had the police call us like, hey, I got your guy here. He's either going to jail or he said you're taking him to treatment, right? Kevin, I had we're in St. Louis, right? I had a laborer call me from Chicago. He goes, hey, you the guy who helps laborers? I mean, how cool is that, right?
Yeah.
We're also seeing, our the Laborers International is now taking up the lean program and spreading it throughout the international. So, all good things. But for me, because I know it's going to help the men and women who are out there doing this thing, and that's what Aaron and I really care about. So,
Yeah.
anything popping up for you, Kevin? Any questions you want to ask us about what's on your? What do you think?
Well, I got just my jaws dropped. My heart is so full. My gut is really strengthening, man. It's
Mm.
that fear of a false event appearing real, you know, smash through it because that John and Jill Barlacorn, they're telling us they're our friends to death, that they make us die. That's what their joy is, is watching us in misery, and
Mm.
and that thing when you look at in the mirror, to thy own self be true. You say, listen, I didn't come this far to come this far, man. You know, there's got to be more out there for me, man. And that is why you are all so unique. Is on the job site, you wouldn't give somebody a power tool if they didn't know how to handle it. So you take care, you watch out for your brother and your sister. You don't put them in harm's way. And it's such a beautiful thing is that the international and everybody, hey, I never drank in my life. Okay. Gain some knowledge to help out somebody. It's, because you know people that know everything about everything. Yeah. And so that is the safety. Our if we had problems with on job injuries, we would be addressed. Where it took you guys, 2+ years to get the first step going. That's normal, and that's a pretty good, 2 years, But you came up against opposition, and that is the resilience that you have shown anybody who has listened to this podcast so far. Is that the resilience of that you're not an ornament that just drops and shatters, or just like a piece of mud just plop. No, man, you're a ball. When it hits your concrete, baby, you got a good concrete. It bounces up, baby. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
love
right
that.
on, right on. And that's the whole shooting shebang is what I wanted to say is that in closing to say, hey man, it ain't the mental part, it ain't the mental, what people say, hey, if you're scared of mental illness, it will come and take you down. So address it, because that's when because good orderly direction, GOD. When it comes up, your trigger, baby. And that is beautiful that guy says, hey, I'm manning up. I'm calling my buddy who knows. I'm driving by the whole joint, baby. I mean, it used to mysteriously take me into the joint. I used to buy it and stuff. I didn't want to. But calling you, man, they got some strength. And then you guys are doing it right. Because if you don't address the mental illness of it all, it's all for folly. And yeah. And I applaud you. If you got 10 more minutes with me, I'd like you to close it up and send us all off away, and then to send me your information so I can always keep it out there. And I'll post something on my Facebook page every day,
Yeah. No, Kevin, really appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, this exposure is amazing. And yeah, you can go on Facebook and like the lean page. We just got it going, so not much on there yet, but more to come. Instagram will be up here shortly. We are always out to help anybody that needs help, right? If somebody's struggling listening to this, our hotline number is 844-691-5326, and you can call that number, and you'll get one of these knuckleheads to help you out, right? And look, we're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to meet you right where in the hell you are.
That's right.
Right. And if you're not ready to stop, man, we talk about harm reduction, Kevin.
Yeah.
We talk about moderation.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't grow up that way. It was sit down, shut the fuck up, and stop. Well, that doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
So So we do talk about these things, and we want guys to incrementally get better in their lives and be able to show up better for their families, and just, reaching out for help, and even just talking about moderation, or thinking about, hey, am I drinking too much? Am I smoking too much weed? Hey man, we're down to have these conversations, and we have some pretty good insight on these things. And so, yeah, anything to help a guy feel better in his body and not feel like he's got to reach for something to fucking make it through the day, right?
Right on.
'Cause-
And
yeah,
you
because
and you guys
go
know
ahead,
a
Kevin.
bunch of languages. You guys know Hoosier language and all.
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
yeah, yeah. You got to get in where you fit in,
Yeah,
Kevin.
yeah, you
Yes,
go,
we
baby. I
do.
love it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Kev, I want to add something real quick because you kind of touched on it. Aaron's really hitting it today. But you touched on it. If it was a safety issue on a job site,
Yep.
right? We train the shit out of that, and we're
Yes.
actually pretty good at it, right? We've come a long way. Well, it turns out like some of the latest numbers, there's under 1,000, job site construction related deaths, right?
Right.
Well, there's five. This is amongst the trades in the United States. Same year, there's 5,000 suicides. So
Oh,
5 times more likely to die by suicide than any of the fatal four combined.
man.
Right? The fatal four, slips and trips, getting pinned, struck by, and then 15 times more likely to 15,000 plus overdoses, drug and alcohol overdoses. So, just listening to those numbers, and those are real human beings. Those aren't
Yes.
that's not some shit that lives on a chart. And as we know, there's so many more who are just struggling, right? It's not just the deaths,
Right.
but it's the daily struggle where we feel like, I don't know if I can make it another day. And as Aaron said, we're reaching for something just to, cover it up or to numb ourselves. And I'll reiterate what Aaron said. If you're struggling right now out there, as somebody who's been there and struggled, reach out for help. And I know that can feel like it's on the moon or, in another universe, like it's not, you don't deserve it or it's not accessible to you. But I promise you, Aaron gave you our hotline number. We are here to talk about it. And we're just a couple of cats from the field
Yeah.
who have been there and done that. And we would love to talk to you about it. But also, it is so much easier as somebody who's struggled with, mental health disorders, depression, and anxiety. There's a lot of shame and guilt. Same with our substance use, and it can feel like we'd almost rather die than say something. But I'm really asking you to share, talk to somebody, because you will unburden yourself and begin your journey of feeling a little better. So,
Magnificent. 5 more
thank you,
minutes,
Kevin.
fellas. I know you're up against it. 5 more minutes.
Hey,
I just really, I want to give a shout out to our executive board, really, our director at the Health and Welfare Fund, Diana Marburger. She's amazing. She's a true champion of people struggling with these issues. Along with Don Willie, Brandon Flynn, John Gall, and dude, there's some cool stuff coming down the pipeline. I know that just our benefits alone, coming from our director of the Health and Welfare Fund, last year they went up 27% behavioral health, and this year they went up 20%. So that's almost a 50% increase in utilization of our mental health, behavioral health services. Dude, that's a huge deal. We hope that has something to do with us. We're thinking it does. And look, this is costing them money, right? Not only is it costing them more money on the back end with more claims, but they're paying 2 guys full time to do this thing, and so it just shows the commitment to their membership and how they truly feel about our brothers and sisters in our organization.
I know what I would add to that also, Kevin, because we throw out there, help, we're better, go get better. You're not doing this shit alone. And so something Aaron and I do, like try to normalize, what therapy looks like. We actually help our members find therapists.
Yeah.
Look at what treatment resources out there. Aaron and I aren't just going to hand you a phone number.
Right.
We're going to help you get there. We have reps from treatment centers when somebody calls us for help, and this could be 10,000 different things, right? It could be a laborer who needs help with his drinking, or it could be your teenage daughter who is having suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
We have connections in the community and beyond, because some of these resources aren't even here in St. Louis. So they're, across the United States, but we are connecting people to these services. So we're not just going to tell you, hey, go get help,
Right.
Get on your way, and with a kind word. We're going to help you get there. We're not going to drop the ball. We're going to follow you through this process. We're going to help connect you to the right people. We're out vetting resources. We go visit our members in treatment. If they're having a challenge in treatment, we're meeting them there. We're helping them with their aftercare planning, maybe sober living, and sometimes just being there just to talk. So it's more than just a groovy chat with a couple guys in recovery, right?
Right on.
We care, and we're going to show up for you.
Yeah. The personal deals that we all go through equals ours. For we're only as strong as our weakest link. And with one of our brothers and sisters I used to be like that. And it's not bad, bro. You're at where you're at. Identify. Come on up.
Yeah.
And when we reach the elevator, we're at the penthouse. We put the button down. We put it to the floor for the others to come back up. And the last thing the whale wants to say is, hey, man, a buddy of mine told me on the job site, you can't afford being this stupid, Wales. I mean, yeah, finally they're going to catch you. You can't hide forever. And it was, comical, but it was really deep-hearted truth about it, is that we as a local, we as a movement, we can't afford to just forget about this and put it off to the sides. It's right out there in the forefront. That it's a proud moment, brothers, when when I heard you guys on the NPR, the St. Louis Public Radio spot that you had, and then the Suicide Month of September, and then listening to you guys right here, right now. You've been touched, man. You got a gift, and you're gonna multiply, brother. That compounding interest, man. You're gonna help one, and the other one helps the other one. So yeah. So
Kev, we're in this together, man. We are in this together. So we either are gonna succeed or we're gonna fail, but we're doing it together, and all that. If you, like I said, if you don't have the capacity today, that's okay. Yeah. But what happens to you affects the people around you, and what happens to them affects you. It's just the way it is.
That's right. That's right, bro. So
thank you, brother. Hey, I want to send some love to you, man. You're doing this right. I can tell. I'm listening to you. I care about what you're saying. It's touching me. So thank you for doing what you're doing. We're doing this together.
Right. Well, normally this would be the time when you get into the Whale Certified Hall of Fame, but our rewards will be after we're long gone. That we have done something good, and I can tell you, all the people that love you. You two guys were fantastic, man, off the charts, but. It's the best when you guys look in the mirror yourselves and yeah, baby, it's us, it's ours.
You know what, Kevin? For me, and then this is special, but it's something you just touched on. Like when I lay my head down at night And before, when I wasn't living right, all the stress and strife and struggle, and I couldn't sleep, and I would cry. Sorry to out myself like that, but I would lay in bed and just, feel terrible. And how I'm living now, and with my partner Aaron, and my life, and all the blessings that I have, I lay down, and it's not always perfect, but I'm at peace. That's my gift.
That's
That's
right.
that mirror.
That's right, baby. That's right.
Thank you, brother.
And we take ourselves to every place we go. So we're,
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
yeah, we're on the job site and off the job site 24/7, baby.
There we are. There we
So
are. Thank you.
peace to you and yours. And local 42 and local 110, I feel the universe is saying they're applauding you also.
Thank you, brother.
All right,
We're
brother.
feeling it. We're feeling the love. We'll talk soon.
Okay, good, good. Bye bye, fellas.
Bye bye. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, brothers.